Hi everybody, Joel from RCMax UK here. Hope you're doing very well. Now, exciting new news here. It's the Arrma KRATON 8S. It's been released today, and there's loads of info on it from Arrma themselves on their website and on videos that they've done, and also on YouTube, of course, from people like Mr. Arrma, Vass from Aussie RC Playground. So check him out. He's a big shout out to Vass. He's a good guy. He is Mr. Arrma, so maybe you can kind of, some people like, what he does with the Arrma stuff, and some people don't. Maybe it's a little bit too promo-y, some would say. But either way, his videos are absolutely superb and very informative. So check him out. He's a top man. So, yeah, big shout out to Vass. Now, just one thing to point out or to say initially here, and that is the KRATON is going to be compared to the X-Max, of course. Now, a very quick sample of pricing here in the UK, at least. I know it'll obviously be very different depending on where you are in the world, but the Arrma KRATON 8S is currently here in the UK, £989, with a discount there of £10.99 from the RRP of £999. And then the X-Max, the latest model, the orange one, is £949. I don't think it makes any difference actually colour wise. Reduced with £130 off from £107,999. So the KRATON is actually more expensive than an X-Max 8S, which actually surprises me. I'm definitely becoming a fan of the Arrma stuff. I like the way it's put together and the ideas that they have come up with and the cars that they're creating. But I've always liked also the fact that Arrma are a reasonable value brand with good, keen pricing and a decent value for money compared to maybe Traxxas, especially in the UK, where Traxxas are, if anything, overpriced. And with Arrma now producing this car in the kind of X-Max field or realm, and it being more expensive than the X-Max, it's a bit of a disappointment for me personally. That's not to say, of course, that it doesn't prove to be better than the X-Max or more value for money than the X-Max in the long run. So there's a quick shot. These shots are all from Arrma's website, so check out arrma.com. It's all on there with loads of videos. These are the two colours you can get at the moment, so it's a kind of yellowy, greeny colour and orangey red colour. For me personally, I think it's got to be the yellowy, the brighter colour. The brighter the better, it stands out a lot more. Now I'm just going to go around highlighting some of the things that you can see on the website. So first things first, it's an 8S car. And I do like the fact that they're using a rebrand of the Hobbywing Max 6, which is 160 amp ESC. And the wiring that they do, Arrma, is quite nice. They use the EC5 compatible connectors, which I definitely like. So that's a definite plus. The battery trays seem to be very big and very easy to manipulate, to make them bigger, to make them longer. And you've got the Velcro straps, which are definitely very convenient and just work really well and are nice and simple to use. And obviously adaptable height-wise, more so than a clip that goes over the top. And Arrma are very good at the cable management systems. They basically use these clips and tethers, and it really keeps your wiring nice and neat. And Arrma are, if anything, very good at this. So that is a massive plus, and I think props to Arrma for continuing this system and doing a really neat wiring setup in their cars. The motor system, now it's a 1250 kV 4685 size motor, and it seems reasonable in size and kV for this kind of application. I think until it's used, we're not going to say. There's always things like heat that are an issue with a bigger car like this, the amount of draw it's going to be taking on that motor, for the speed it gives. So use is going to tell. The jury is out on that one. We'll have to see what happens, but it seems reasonable in size and kV seems about right. Maybe I'd like to see a bit of a longer motor, if anything, in ideal situation, maybe a bit lower kV. But we'll see how it goes with that one. It looks reasonable at least. Now, I definitely like the look of these steel reinforced front and rear bulkheads and steel reinforced steering hubs, which if you look, there's a kind of steel ring where the bearings go there and where the steering hub balls go in, also on the steering hub. And things like that are very interesting and are new, definitely. I've not seen that before, at least myself, on any of the cars I've got. And I like the look and sound of that, so I'm impressed. That seems like a good new idea. Now, the radio or the transmitter, I'm not a fan of these at all. The Arrma KRATON 6S V4 has the DX2, I believe, not the E, and it's rubbish. It's absolutely rubbish. A lot of the new Arrma cars have them, and the delay on it is terrible. It makes it hard to doing their corrections, and it's generally just the worst controller I've ever seen on an RTR car, in fact. A mate of mine has just got the Mojave truck, and it comes with that controller, and he instantly said to me, and he's quite new to the hobby nowadays, he said, give me a radio that you can recommend, because this is rubbish. So that is bad. Now, this controller here, I believe, is an upgrade to that, and you can get a module to do Bluetooth stuff, which is cool, definitely. I like that. So a bit of telemetry and so on, which is a good thing. And I'm hoping that the controller is considerably better than the current Arrma cars that they're using, that controller, and it doesn't have the lag and the general lack of response. But I definitely don't like the solid steering wheel either. It doesn't feel good in your hand. And to be honest, at this kind of price, £1,000, I really would expect something to feel a bit better. Like the standard Traxxas controller, I know it's very old, but it definitely feels a hell of a lot better than these DX2 controllers. Okay, another interesting feature here is the composite or the plastic shock towers. Now, there's quite a lot of plastic on the Arrma KRATON 8S. Comparing it, of course, back to the X-Max, a lot of people like to moan about Traxxas stuff, and the X-Max in particular, saying it's very plasticky, which it definitely is. There's a hell of a lot of plastic on an X-Max, but it seems to work, and it's the plastic that gives an X-Max that kind of relative lightweight and high strength, which you need for something that you're going to launch, like you can launch an X-Max, and for something that's that big and heavy. Now, I'm concerned about a few things about this KRATON, one of which is the metal chassis, but I'll get onto that in a minute. So people who've been moaning about the Traxxas plasticiness are going to have to eat a little bit of humble pie here, because you've, of course, got things like plastic shock caps on these Arrma shocks and also the plastic shock towers. But I personally don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think there's nothing wrong with the plastic towers, and I'm sure they've been made durable, and they're going to be good, and they're going to be light and strong, which, of course, as I say, is something you're going to want on a car this big, heavy, and powerful. So going on to these shock absorbers. Now, the action from what I can see on videos from, like, for example, Vass's video from Aussie RC Playground, is they look very plush, they look nice and smooth, and they look quite well damped. So I got nothing bad to say about the shocks at all. Plastic shock caps and bottoms is not an issue in my opinion. We'll wait and see if it becomes an issue, of course, in use. I definitely hope that the bottom shock eyelet there is a lot stronger and fit for purpose than the 6S KRATON V4 version was. 2 bashes I did with that car on 6S, and both times I broke a bottom shock eyelet. So that was a bit disappointing, but I'm sure that won't be the case with this 8S version. Now, I really like the look of this. Now, I'm not a fan of E-clips at all, but I do like the look of this motor shaft, which they're calling a D shape, as it's the shape of a D, obviously, and the pinion there has a D shape on it. So the pinion is going to naturally stay on the shaft there. It's not going to slip off. It's not going to, round out. And the the E-clip is going to keep it on there as well. So I do definitely like this design. I like that a lot. Another feature I like here is just the standard way the motor mesh is set with a sliding motor mount. These are just easy to use as long as it locks down nice and tight, which I'm guessing it does, because it would have been tested, I assume. I do like the system. Again, moving back to the Traxxas comparison again, Traxxas has a sliding mount, but it's plastic, and you use these pins. I wasn't happy with the motor mesh that was standard with the pins myself, so I ended up doing it myself anyway, and it's just a bit of a pain. It's not as simple, and I definitely do like just the standard style sliding motor mount mesh system that this new KRATON 8S is using. Right, it's brace-tastic, this new Arrma 8S. Well, to be fair, it's going to have, with a metal chassis like this, it's going to have a front and rear brace, and they've added the center brace. But because they're all red, it kind of looks like there's braces everywhere that you maybe wouldn't expect. So really, it's a fairly standard kind of setup, but it's been slightly tweaked by Arrma, I suppose. But I do like the way now that you've got these pins. You basically pull out pins, body clips at the front and rear bulkheads, and they release those chassis braces so you can get them up and out of the way, which is a lot better than the V4 versions of the Arrma cars, which you have to unbolt it all, which is a pain in the backside, to be honest. And this is a much better method. So, again, something I do like about Arrma as a brand, they definitely seem to constantly be progressing and upgrading and thinking of new things and the better ways to do things. The problem with that, I suppose, on the other side of the coin, is that you can end up buying, I suppose, a version 3 of something. Or in this case, I could go and spend 900 quid on this Arrma KRATON 8S, and then in a year there's a version 2 with a lot of better parts, and there's me sitting there thinking I've bought the wrong car. But I suppose it's progress. Progress is always good. A couple of things to note. You get a waterproof receiver box, which the ESC sits on top of, and the servo is also down in there as well. The servo is a 5th scale size servo, apparently, which is pretty cool. Moving on to the whole 5th scale thing, Arrma are calling this a 5th scale. That is very confusing to me. It looks like it's X-Max kind of sized, which I believe is maybe arguably 6th or 7th scale. If you're talking about monster trucks, I guess that's arguable what scale it actually is. But to call this car a 5th scale, I think, unless I'm completely wrong with the sizing, it is not a 5th scale. Right, the all-important wheel and tyre talk. Now, I like the look of these wheels. I think they look pretty cool. I like the pattern of the tyres, the tread pattern. They look pretty soft, if anything, which I don't see being a big issue. The Traxxas X-Max tyres are very soft, and that's a good thing. So hopefully that'll be the same here. I do definitely like the fact that they're a standard 24mm hex. And the other thing that is also very, very good is that they have a metal hex insert, which again is a very good idea, and well done Arrma for that one. No stripped hexes, hopefully. Another cool little area that Arrma are good at is the body pin tethers, and I do like this extra kind of washer type item they've put there to protect the body and make the body nice and secure. The body posts, I noticed, are also very wide at the top to give a nice bit of support to the body, and you've also got the center section, sort of roll section, which allows the body to key into it, and it gives another bit of reinforcement. On the other hand, however, the bumpers and the rear wing that are there to protect the body, I suppose, and protect the car, I'm not sure at all about the size of the front bumper. The first thing I upgraded on my version 4 KRATON 6S was to get an RPM bumper, which is actually of a decent size to protect the front and the front arms. And this, of course, does not have that, so it's a bit of a concern. One thing that X-Max has is a very good front and rear bumper that protects the car a lot. So I have a feeling this might need something similar. And of course, you've just got the rear wing. It's a bit out there, and if you're trying backflips, I'm guessing, which people are going to try and do, if you land nose down, you haven't got much front bumper, and also if you land rear down, like tail dart, I suppose you might call it, you've just got a wing there. You don't really have much in the way of a rear bumper. So those two things on a car, again, this kind of size and weight and velocity, does concern me a little bit, to be honest. The chassis is metal, and apparently it's 4mm, and it is etched, and it has these indentations in it, which I'm assuming are there for a bit of strength to kind of create some longitudinal strength in the chassis, because they do bend, these metal chassis. When you use them really hard, they do bend, or they can bend, unlike a plastic chassis, which I suppose would snap if you really abused it. So this is a little bit of a concern for me, this metal chassis. I was hoping Arrma would kind of do something totally new and different with that, but I understand, they have made obviously changes, and they've, I would imagine, have tested this to the limit. So hopefully it proves to be more than adequate. It definitely looks the part. I do like a metal chassis, that's for sure. It's a shame, of course, it gets scratched up and everything, but it looks good. And these indentations hopefully will provide that bit more strength and it won't bend. Right, so to wrap up, this was, of course, the leaked photo that came out a while ago now. I did actually put a video showing this briefly because I didn't know this backstory behind it and that it was obviously someone had got in trouble for leaking it, so I took it down again. But that was nothing to do with Arrma at all, by the way. That was just because of what had been going on with it, and I didn't want the drama. But just showing you this photo because it's next to an X-Max, so it gives you an idea, a better idea of exactly the kind of sizing. It's very similar in size. I think Arrma have done something quite cunning here by taking this photo from above, because it doesn't give you much idea of how low the KRATON is in terms of the X-Max, or in comparison to the X-Max. And as far as I've heard, it's quite a lot lower. It's a much, much lower slung car. And, you know, as a result, I suppose it's going to handle quite differently. Well, I suppose it will lightly handle like just an oversized KRATON. So it will handle very well in general. So that is it. Let me know what you think about it. I've kind of rambled on quite a lot here. I'm going to buy one of these unless for some reason I decide last minute not to. I really would like to have something to use alongside my X-Max, and I think it'll be fun comparing the two together. I really like my X-Max. It's one of those RC cars that I think you've kind of got to at least try. I've owned quite a few basher RC cars, and the X-Max is one that I've considered letting go when I don't use it, but I end up keeping it because it's just that special car. So I'm hoping that the KRATON will be similarly special, but in a different way. Different enough to actually want to keep them both. So, yeah, I'm going to order one of these, and of course, I'll be doing plenty of videos on it and giving you my opinions on it. So, there you go, guys. I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll catch up with you again soon. Take it easy. See ya.